Steelers fans, imagine all the world's greatest songs about the world's greatest football team in a once-in-a-lifetime collection. What Yinz Talkin' Bout presents Steelers Songs Volume 1. 30 Pittsburgh songs, all about the black and gold. From Mike Tomlin
the standard is the standard when you're listening to Tomlin
to Russell Wilson.
Let Russ cook, oh let him soar through skies of black and gold.
And Cam Hayward.
Cam, don't go to Cleveland.
Get the Steelers Songs collection on 2 CDs or 2 cassettes for just $26.99.
Who is gonna catch the ball?
Or completely free on your favorite streaming service.
You say you're black and gold, but your face are full of it.
That's right, iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio.
3 more years. Tomlin stays for 3 more years.
These songs will have you reaching for your terrible towel. Satisfaction guaranteed. Steelers Songs Volume 1 is not sold in stores.
No, we don't want no HBO.
So don't be a jagoff. Listen to Steelers Songs Volume 1 now. Only from What Yinz Talkin' Bout. The conversation about the Steelers conversation.
You can see the black and gold when we're in the Super Bowl.
Yoy!
I'm not gonna worry about your level of concern.
Yoy and double yoy!
We talking about Twitter.
Triple yoy!
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy!
I can't stop winning. I can't stop winning.
We're not urinating on the fire, man.
I can't find
We mock ourselves.
Oh, there. Too many buttons on the button board. It's spooky night. It's Halloween is here. But the ghosts and witches are seem to be calm, at least in Steelers Nation. The all is quiet. 'Twas the night before All Saints Day, I guess. It's not a peep could be heard in Steeler Nation. Not when we're 6-2. Wow. Going into the bye. Best record since 2020. Has it literally been 5 years or 4 years, I guess, since
4
we've been
years.
Wow, crazy good, feeling good.
Yes.
No, only treats, no tricks.
That's right.
This is What Yinz Talkin' Bout, the conversation about the Steelers conversation, exposing all the hot and toxic takes. I'm Kyle Kreis, and with me is Greg Benevent.
Hello.
Want to thank everyone who tuned into last week with our most, at least on YouTube, most popular episode yet.
Wow.
The Joe Gillum interview, I guess, had piqued people's attention. I'm glad. That's a story that I really wasn't fully cognizant of until I dug a little deeper. So that's cool. Yeah, our biggest episode on YouTube. I haven't checked out the podcasting downloads yet, so I don't know. But yeah, we appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe and leave a review. We'll get you into the running for our giveaway.
That's right.
And if you haven't listened to, go back and listen to that Joe Gilliam interview. That's a good one. Maybe I was hoping people might pick up on some of the older ones. Like the Double Yoy one keeps slowly gathering clicks. So surprisingly, the Levon Kirkland one is still, I don't know why that one.
That's surprising.
So, yeah, go back and listen to Levon Kirkland talk about Super Bowl 30 and, just some great memories from an actual All-Pro player.
That's right.
But we'll keep it. We'll keep the unique things coming. You've told us you want unique content, not the same old. Leave the power rankings for someone else. Leave the speculation and recollection for the other so-called content creators.
Oof.
We're doing more than content. We're making you content with Steelers information. Okay, enough caucus. Let's get to the tweets. The apology tour continues at Steelers Oz, Steelers Nation Australia. The Fire Tomlin crowd is hurting. 6-2. Here we go. Yeah. Wow. Haven't seen the Tomlin critics for all of 2 weeks. I don't know.
Right. They know when to lie low.
Yeah, you got nothing to say. They wait until the first 3 and out, and then they're like, "Oh, more proof, more proof." But here we are, 6-2. Let the apologies commence from at Joe Frick. Please sign the Mike Tomlin apology form. Maybe he knew what he was doing when he put Russ in after all. You know who you are. Not even the Russ. I don't even care about the Russ decision. That's just the latest.
Yes.
So let's see. What is the reason for the Tomlin apology form? Is it A, the media convinced me that not having losing seasons was bad?
I like that's in the prime position. I feel that's where that belongs.
Yeah, is it even the media? I think it's the fan base more that have complained about, 9-8 and winning seasons, blah, blah.
I think they fed each other. I think the fans started it, and then the media was like, okay, that we can give them more of this 9-8 as bad content, and then it became the snake that eats itself.
Yeah, mediocre Mike. Blah, blah. Yeah, right, mediocre Mike. Who's saying that? Nobody. Could it be B, playing Madden on rookie is easier than actual games? I think this might be a criticism. Everyone's like, "Oh, just make the deal and just sign these guys out of thin air." Or could it be C? I miss having a white head coach.
C, unfortunately, probably belongs at least as B.
Yeah, everyone. You can tell who. Not that there's necessarily a direct correlation, but man, you can tell the Fire Tomlin crowd. You go into their Twitter bios, and there's a lot of God and country in the bios there.
Yeah.
Miss having a white head coach. How about, is it just D, I don't know ball?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of these, I don't think we should make them mutually exclusive. Like, I think you can check multiple boxes off. This isn't a Scantron test from the 90s.
Yeah, where's the box? Fantasy football has made me think I know ball.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, if we were to, I mean, this person did a fine job putting this together, but I mean, to actually write this out, this is pages. I mean, this is not just 6 answers. This goes on and on. This person hit on some very accurate things, but I mean, certainly if we were adding to it, this could be as lengthy as the Steelers playbook.
Yeah, why do we keep doing that to Mike Tomlin,
When are we going to stop doing this to Mike Tomlin?
Stop. And the people who are like, I know he's a Hall of Famer, but nope.
Yes.
Nope. He's Hall of Famer. And we're doing it again.
And that moment where he looked at the camera and gave the thumbs up after the third quarter, I laughed out loud. That was a genuinely incredible moment.
Do you think he was looking in the camera, or was he just looking at someone on the field, a player on the field?
I mean, I'd say that, except he was looking dead center in the camera. I mean, I thought that too. How could he know the camera was looking at him? But I mean, if that's a happy accident, what a happy accident.
All right. The apology tour continues. This isn't necessarily Tomlin, but it's apology nonetheless. Breakfast Ball on FS1. Breakfast Ball on Fox Sports. Mark Schlereth and Danny Parkins apologized about Russell Wilson. Quote, Russell Wilson has shocked me. The Steelers can definitely win this division. That's right. Russ's biggest hater. I thought that Schlereth was just hating because he was like Team Sean Payton or something. He was definitely in the anti-Russ train.
Oh, yeah. And Schlereth is, of course, associated with, I think he's associated with the Broncos almost in the way that like Merrill is associated with the Steelers, like a very good to great player that's a big part of the franchise, even when they're national media. I mean, I'm not here to gloat. I'm genuinely impressed with Schlereth's apology. I like to think that I would be able to step up and say something that humble and that good when I'm wrong about something. If I were to go out on such a branch as he did, so I was impressed, and it's even more impressed than when I was in the basement of the Alaska airport and saw that Mark Schlereth was in the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
It was, I think, the one NFL player in there. Like every great Hall of Fame, it's in the basement of the airport.
It's him and Captain Ahab, I think, right?
It's like Carlos Boozer and like Scott Gomez. I think it's. But hey, the point is, I was impressed with Mark Schlereth. That's what I got to say. For the first time since when he was playing with the Broncos, perhaps.
It only took him a week longer than Filipponi to apologize. Now we just need Colin Cowherd and maybe Mark Madden. I don't know what.
There's still 9 weeks left.
It's we're going to be holding the Lombardis, and then Mark Madden will be like, "Oh, too many fingerprints on the Lombardi, Tomlin." What? Okay, all right. Is there any more? Oh, how about one more of the apology tour? Mm-hmm. At reigning hater of the year, Jay Bailey, NFL, Jarrett Bailey. I said coming into the season, I'd have to see what the quarterbacks look like before saying what the Steelers' ceiling was. Well, now I've seen the QBs. This is a team that can win in January. All aboard the bandwagon. Yeah. Well, if you didn't know if you didn't watch the Duck season or the Mason, Mitch, Kenny seasons, and then you were like, well, let's see what we can do with these QBs. So shame on you for waiting. You just barely got on the bandwagon.
I think you touched on it in the last point. This a tweet like this and what you said is like kind of opening up the bandwagon to a bunch of people that frankly were very adverse to the bandwagon by being able to say like, okay, well, here's a way that you can get on the bandwagon while also saving face and what happened previously. This is the way to do it.
Everyone's so afraid of being a homer. Like, sorry, if you're a fan, be a fan. Don't be one of these, no, I'm objectionable or whatever, objective, or, I just call them as I see them, like that type of. How about be a fan?
I have no emotions and I watch this stoically.
Yeah, how about grab your towel, wave it, put on your jersey,
Because that's infinitely more fun, win or lose.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't had, believe me, the people who had fun during the Duck years and the Kenny years, now we deserve this. I'm patting myself on the back for that.
There you go.
Enjoy 6-2. If you didn't love me when I was 9-8, then you don't deserve me when I'm 8-2.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, it's let's talk about
It's my quarterback.
Let's talk about my quarterback. It's time for the tweet from at Scarpizio Scarps. Russ joins Ben as the only QBs in Steelers history to record 2 straight games with 260 or more passing yards, 1 or more passing touchdowns, 0 picks, and a passer rating of 109. Not bad for a guy who's washed. I mean, these are kind of specific stats.
Yes.
I guess the point is there is nonetheless.
Oh, yeah, the point is there, and then that this is quarterbacking that the Steelers not only haven't seen in some time, it's quarterbacking that, frankly, the Steelers kind of just haven't seen. I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of this. I mean, it's moments like this that make me think back to the Mike Tirico quote from last week about how Russ was playing at, average to above average, whereas to us it seemed so amazing. And stats like this are why. This is exactly what you would want out of a starter. And frankly, Russ kind of had to do this for them to win the game.
Yeah, this game was, it's not as close. It was a lot closer than what I guess even the final score wasn't super far off. But, this felt like, everyone said coming in, it's easy. It's going to be easy. This game was not as. No. This was a good, close game.
Yeah, those guys had a good plan and they executed it well.
But this does, as far because some people were like, "This is the best quarterback we've had since Ben." Yeah, well, then Ben was here 3 years ago. It wasn't not that long ago.
Right. It's not like the gap between Terry and Ben.
It's not like these people are like, "Oh, the Dodgers haven't been to the World Series in 4 years."
Right,
like,
right.
wait, what? Okay, but I do think that at least this past week, man, Russ kind of plays like Ben as far as, in the Ben being Ben. Russ has a little bit of that as far as we're going to let the receivers get open and he can move out of the pocket and wait till a receiver gets open. That felt familiar, or that felt Ben-like. We haven't seen that in the Kenny or such era.
Yes, and I would piggyback on top of that. We also got not like late stage Ben, but like later stage Ben, and that feeling of when Russ is like, okay, I guess I've got to run for this, even though I'm very, very uncomfortable doing so, which led to the fumble, which of course the team played complimentary ball and made not matter.
Yes, made not matter. That's the story of the 2024 Steelers. The tweet is now from thank you at Fantaskippy.
This is a good one.
Jeffrey Benedict. Is Mike Tomlin a QB whisperer? Ben developed under him, and when they made him completely change his style, it worked, and well. One with Devlin Hodges, got a lot out of Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. Now Fields and Wilson playing better than before. Everyone but Trubisky, although Trubisky beat Brady. Don't forget that.
He beat Brady. Yeah, he beat the Panthers. He had a couple decent games. Yeah, no, this brings to mind old-timey Twitter trolling when you would take the opposite tack of what everyone else is thinking and then do that. But it's a point that I hadn't considered from this perspective. I mean, we how many times, in the run-up to getting Kenny and even into coming into the season, it was just feeling like, okay, well, Tomlin hasn't developed a quarterback before. How's he going to know how to do this? Well, maybe he kind of has. And maybe particularly if we see developed as a synonym for gotten the most out of versus we made him a franchise Hall of Famer that'll be around for a decade and a half, into we got the most we could from this guy's talents at this time with this team.
Yeah. With under BA, it was the, hey, gun it if you want to,
Right, hey, everyone's running, throw it as far as you can.
But then when it was like, hey, maybe we should protect this guy a little more and let's get the ball out quicker.
He is in his 30s.
And, and Ben, we never heard Ben say, oh, they're not really playing to my strengths or anything like that. And then when it was an undrafted rookie with Devlin Hodges, it wasn't like, oh, let's give up the season. No, let's trade for Minka, and we're still going to win with this ball club. And we just have to, we have to know with what we have at quarterback. That seems to be certainly, I don't know if it's Tomlin specifically, or maybe it is. It's that he knows what he has with the quarterbacks and how to strategery around that.
Yes, and I think that's also part of how the field's not having a lot of turnovers up into the point of Russ.
Yeah, it was. Devlin taught us how to field.
Yeah,
that was. How about computer? Thank you. At West Coast 60495 J. Russell Wilson gets robbed of touchdowns. Justin Fields gets saved from interceptions. That's the difference. It's
a little reductive.
Okay, I found it a little interesting. I mean, it's at least this week we were robbed of touchdowns.
I think it's I think it's a little mean to Justin, but I mean I think that it does show that Justin perhaps is a little more likely to turn the ball over than Russ at this point in his career, or perhaps a better way of saying that is he's less likely to make the best, most optimal play in a given snap than Russ.
I think that's why maybe not interceptions, but ball control. I think that might be why it was easy to say we're going to go with Russ. If Fields didn't have those botched snaps or fumbles,
right, which you haven't seen with Russ even the slightest bit, to say nothing of the more deep passing than I can remember, than maybe even in 2020.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about
These are the new leads. These are the Glengarry.
Is it the return of the Glengarry plays? The Arthur Smith tweets from at the 33rd team FB, the 33rd team. Steelers offense in the past 2 weeks. Okay, not a giant sample size, but still, past 2 weeks. Total yards, 4th. Yards per pass attempt, 4th. Yards per rush, 4th. 10-plus yard plays, tied for 1st.
That's wild.
The offense is clicking.
Yes.
I think this is the definition of clicking right now.
Yeah, and and that's even with, coming off of a game where things weren't perfect in the red zone, but they didn't turn the ball over. They continued moving. It certainly didn't seem like the team ever got frustrated and bogged down with a bunch of 3-and-outs. This stat that doesn't show up how many 3-and-outs there have been, but boy, that's got to be pretty low too in the last 2 weeks as well. And that helps the defense as much as anything to maybe be ready to be out there at the very end so as to get Beanie Bishop yet another interception.
Yeah, yards per rush, 9.5 these last 2 weeks. I'm kind of like, that seems deceptive. That didn't seem like it sticks out on the tape, but and that's still 4th. I'm like, who are the 3 better?
Right, exactly. Who are the teams they're running better with, who presumably have, more than one starter from their original offensive line out there at the time.
Yeah, good point. This O-line, but maybe, thank you. Okay. And let this kind of reiterate something you were talking about, red zone.
Mm-hmm.
The tweet from at David M. Todd. David Todd. Steelers 0 for 4 in the red zone against the Giants. Number 1 was a TD pass killed by Broderick Jones, personal foul.
He didn't have to grab the guy's face mask. That was stupid. Even if you're to hold the guy, that maybe they don't call holding, but they're definitely going to call face mask.
The second red zone attempt was a Wilson to Jefferson miscommunication.
Which is going to happen.
I'm having a hard time even remember what that was.
Yeah, it's the one that is thrown behind Jefferson. Jefferson is open, but he's not exactly where Russ thought he was going to be.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Third red zone was a TD pass. George doesn't get his foot down. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
But I like what Tomlin said. It's football. You can't really blame. How are you going to blame? It's just football. And number 4, Dan Moore goes out. Anderson gets beat like a drum on one snap. So
I think that also is just football. A guy can't play a snap, so you put in the backup, and the backup has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, on the first snap. Yeah.
But the plays are there, like Dave says. The plays are there. Is that frustrating in this game? Yes. Is it good it happened in a game against the Giants on Monday night when enough other things were working? Yes. It's sure the other team is on scholarship and all this, but man, I don't like the odds of this same thing happening to the Steelers the next time they play an entire game in the red zone.
Well, if we're going to praise Russ, his 2 games so far, he's 2 for 11 in the red zone.
I believe that. Yeah.
Red zone is, but he does have the rushing touchdown, the QB keeper or whatever.
Sneak.
So I guess that could be move for improvement. I don't know.
Well, I think it could also be the kind of thing where they're going to at some point you got to figure they're going to incorporate Fields somehow. It's to have him on the bench the entire rest of the season feels a little silly. But so it seems like that would be the place to put Justin out because what Justin was very good at, whatever else as a quarterback, was the red zone.
Yeah, would you put him maybe not in the 20, but from the 10, from anything first and goal where you can get that
play, the 4th down play against the Raiders was genuinely impressive. That guy should have been able to get him. That's the angle he had, all that. Justin just ran away from him.
But again, I like how Russ can extend the play and let receivers find their way open.
This is an Arthur Smith problem, but it's a good Arthur Smith problem.
Put them both in. Can we put both in the
Wildcat?
Why do we need Michael Pruitt out there? We can put both QBs out there.
But he might have helped with the running game too. I think a lot of these tight ends are there to block. But I'm sure again, this is something for them to figure out on the bye.
Great problem solving to have on your bye week at 6-2. Okay, let's talk running game. We know we don't get to talk running backs too much unless it's like, we extending Najee? By Josh Carney. Josh Carney. Steelers running back Najee Harris is on pace to rush for a career-high 1,332 yards on the season. He looks as good as he ever has. Seen a lot of glimpses of the Alabama Najee. Okay. In a good scheme for him, on a heater. I don't think I've heard that before.
I think it just means they're doing well, but you're right. It is an expression. It's like, does that come to us from the turn of the century? What was that? But no, I think Najee has looked increasingly good, and I can't help but think on some level that coincides with A, the arrival of Russ, and B, the return of Jaylen Warren.
Ding. Okay.
Ding.
Yeah. So, this he'd be on pace for, I think, the most rushing yards for a Steeler in this first 4 seasons ever.
I would believe that, yeah.
Are you how do you feel about extending him after?
I mean, it depends on, because I think you make him an offer. Because otherwise your second or third round pick is going to have to be a running back. So I think you make him an offer with the tacit understanding that, hey, some contender that might be a running back away could just spend a whole bunch of money and you're going to lose him. In which case, congratulations to Najee, he earned it.
You're not happy with Patterson. Patterson has a similar kind of frame and skill type.
And Patterson's
maybe.
a great kick returner, but Patterson is also still hurt.
Okay, good.
I mean, Najee has played through injury for every one of his seasons, all but this season. I mean, it's Najee has played a lot of hurt football in his short career.
Okay, well, to be determined. Let's talk receivers. The tweet from at Chris Mueller PGH. Chris Mueller, do you still think the Steelers need another wide receiver after what you just saw? 87% yes, 13% no. But it's like, where are we getting the receiver from now at this point? I don't know if I want the guy from the Jets. Would he even be better than what we have now? Who else is out there?
See, that's just it. I don't know if he'd be better, but what put me firmly in the yes column, and I did not think of this because I was not living enough in my fears, was when other people brought up, what happens if George gets hurt?
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I was like, okay, get me the guy from the Jets. I mean, you think you're seeing too much Michael Pruitt now. Like, if George gets hurt, then a whole bunch of this crashes down. So get a guy for a 6th or 7th round pick, and he doesn't play for a while because the principle of the moving train. But this is such a this receiving core is playing better than I thought it would, but it's also just a core with no depth whatsoever.
If is someone,
or even if Austin gets hurt, what are they going to do?
So we need to add somehow.
Yeah,
we only got a week. I mean, when the trade deadline, I think, is the 7th or something.
It's the 5th. It's the 5th. So it's because I did not feel great about Russ has done a lot with accuracy, but he had the one deep pass to Scotty Miller intended for Scotty Miller, and I didn't think that was maybe the best idea. I think the guy from the Jets is better than Scotty Miller. He's not better than George. He's not better than Van, probably, but I think he might be better than Scotty Miller.
Okay, all right. So someone would have to be sat down. I guess you're saying Scotty Miller.
That's what I'm thinking. Because if you're getting that old guy from the Jets, he's not playing teams, but Tyler Matakevich is coming back, and other guys, and the special teams, which of course are now the talk of the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't want to break that group up either. So if Scotty's a big part of that, then reconsider all of this.
What about some of these high-end guys? The talk is the Slayton that we just played with from New York.
And then the next day they said we're not trading him, but minds can change. He certainly looked good against the Steelers, and we know how heavily the Steelers weigh that when evaluating a player.
Yeah, that seems to be the easiest way to ticket to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
All right, but we're not gonna. It's like, keep in mind, I think that the 6th pick for Justin Fields has the potential to become a 4th pick, so you can't trade your 4th pick because that's in flux, I think.
Yeah, and and there'll be a lot of wheeling and dealing, and if it's a 7th or something like that, or future considerations or whatever. But yeah, having another warm body that's played in the NFL before, even as just like a George insurance policy, is appealing to me.
Get your George insurance. I like it. Okay, how about this? Speaking of George insurance, at Mic'd Up Sports 1, Mike Nicastro. What the hell is Tomlin challenging? The call was so obvious it was overturned before they could even go to replay. How could one possibly be so bad at this? I don't even want to talk about the challenge hate. Obviously, Tomlin doesn't care about challenge rate, and that challenge rate. No one ever talked about challenge rate on their enshrinement in Canton. The play. First off, I don't think I necessarily knew that 2 feet in bounds meant both feet in bounds, because I kind of thought, oh yeah, you tap twice, that's the same as tapping both feet.
I think George might have thought the same thing. I will say, this exact play, I have never seen Tomlin apologize for not knowing the rule during a press conference like he did for this after the game, where he said, I didn't know the rule, I didn't know that obviously, what did he say? Obviously I wouldn't have thrown the flag if I'd known it was a booth initiated challenge. I just always assumed you had to get both feet down, just because I can't remember ever seeing something like this where a guy just got 1 foot. I mean, this is kind of the second time in 2 years with George and this kind of thing. If you remember the non-touchdown against the Titans on Thursday night when he swung his entire foot around like he was doing a roundhouse kick and somehow got it out of bounds in the south end zone when Kenny threw him the touchdown pass. But so this is an issue, and it may just be Tomlin and George not knowing the rules both on the same play.
Plus, from what I heard from people who were in the crowd, they were saying we didn't hear them say a booth review reversed the call or something. So if you couldn't hear it in the fans, maybe he didn't hear. He's getting it. It's not like he's watching. I guess he is watching the jumbotron, but he's getting it through his ear, right? Isn't that? I'm assuming.
Right, but there should be somebody there watching the whole thing. I mean, I don't think he was penalized for this.
They took away our timeout.
Okay, well that's not good. So this is the kind of dumb mistake that won't happen again.
I just, it's like if your biggest critique is Tomlin isn't flawless at challenges.
I do not care.
I just don't care. Please, or clock management. He doesn't care because he never, besides this, he was apologetic. But besides that, we never.
This particular thing, yes.
Don't care. But it was still a pretty sweet play.
Yes, it was. It was. Something to build on.
And now we know both feet mean both feet. Okay. It's a little bit of con season. The tweet is from at stats guy Daniel Valente. Trading away Deontay Johnson only for him to end up on the Ravens is an absolute nightmare scenario for Omar Khan and the Steelers, especially after striking out on big whiteout targets. I'm bummed that he's back in the division because that team seems pretty. From what I watched, their running game is pretty unstoppable.
Their defense sure isn't impenetrable.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we can whoop up on that defense hopefully. Mm-hmm. But DJ is going to be their number 3. He was the number 1 in Carolina. Now he's going to the number 3 in against the Ravens, and I'm thinking, wow, gosh, thank goodness we got Cam Sutton back now because we play them in 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks, yes.
And I think DJ is the matchup that could be a difference maker. I mean, he's a number 1 playing the number 3.
Absolutely, and it's the Ravens going all in. It's not a nightmare scenario for the Steelers. The Steelers could not make it any clearer they wanted DJ out of that locker room. The nightmare scenario would be DJ still in that locker room. They wanted him out. So where he ends up after that, they have no control over it, other than the fact they were unable legally to bring him back. Another way to say, especially after striking out on other big wide receiver targets since then, is to, especially after not being willing to overpay on other big wide receiver targets since then. They really weren't willing to shell out all kinds of first round picks and who knows what else. So, it's not optimal, but I mean, it's the Ravens know how good DJ can be. They can bring him out there, and it's, and again, you can't live in your fears on this. What if the game comes around and DJ's open and Lamar throws a ball and DJ drops it in front of the crowd? What a moment that would be. You can't just assume that something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, anyone who was like, oh, this is a nightmare scenario. Yeah, you're probably the same person who was like, oh, Deontay drops in.
Right.
Or something,
right.
so you can't have it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I never believed that drops in narrative anyway.
Right.
So I'm the one who might be like, I might be living in my fears on this. Especially if it's like Beanie Bishop on Deontay.
Right, exactly, yes. Even with Cam back, they can't have 12 guys on defense.
Or, why is... I'm trying to think who might be,
Well, this was the first game where somebody actually went after Dante Jackson and did a good job of it, as well as Dante has played. Like, if this game had been the first game of the season, maybe the narrative on Dante is different than it is now.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on? No, that's all for that. Shall we talk? Oh, let's talk about the big boys.
It's good to see the big boy.
That's right. The tweet is from @TommyJaggy. Tommy Jaggy. Thank goodness Dan Moore Jr. was able to come back in. Calvin Anderson's first snap as a Steeler. That was a disaster. Yeah, but we went from Dan Moore Jr. biggest liability to thank God he's back in.
That's what injuries do.
And we don't say his name unless it's for good things now this season.
Absolutely. Well, another time you say his name is that he's, frankly, he gets a lot of interviews in the locker room now, since he is the leader of that offensive line. A more vocal one, certainly, than Sayamalu. He hasn't had the career success that Sayamalu has, but Dan Moore Jr. is a good quote and a good leader. So, Dan Moore Jr. leads a charmed life. I mean, he plays well, and it's wherever he ends up after the season, he's going to do it for a lot of money, and they don't probably go into coaching and announcing. I mean, weep not for Dan Moore Jr. It is everything is coming up. Dan Moore Jr. and the team's very lucky to have him in there because here's a guy that at least was probably going to start and right now is reasonably healthy.
He's a black and gold type of a guy.
I think so. But are you willing to... Oh, goodness. Nothing is working today. How about let's go to Scar Quip. Jake. The Steelers should re-sign Dan Moore and package Broderick Jones in a trade after the season. How willing are you to tag Moore or ship Broderick Jones?
I'm willing to do neither of those. Even if I were willing to entertain the idea of trading Broderick Jones, doing so at his absolute lowest value would not be how I would go about doing it. No, they've invested a lot in Broderick Jones. They knew it would take years, plural, somebody with that kind of talent and that extraordinary lack of experience. So, this coming year is a big one for Broderick Jones, the 2025-2026 season. But for what it would cost to tag Dan Moore and for what you already have in Broderick Jones and Fautanu coming back, it is far better to develop the resources you have and hope for the best.
Trying to think of any kind of instance where, you kind of gave up on a player after 2 years. What is it? Was Adams at right tackle? Was that a 2-year experiment?
That was a lot less talent, though it was more size. Adams was huge. I don't know. It might have been 2 or 3 years with Adams. It definitely was more early than you would think. But in 2 years where they gave up on a first-round pick, that's a lot rarer. I mean,
you traded up for.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. That's, the Kenny thing is very much sui generis there.
What about who was the Craig Urbick? I think that was just a cut, and then he ended up.
And people even talk that are like associated with the team, like, hey, he was a much better fit for I think it was the Broncos or the Bills, their scheme, and had a great career after that.
Okay, well, if we're not going to trade Broderick Jones, can we just bench him? @Hannah_Ackerman. Hannah, is it time to let Dylan Cook cook? The first Dylan Cook sighting, wow. Maybe. I think he's coming back from IR.
Yes.
But if Spencer Anderson isn't the guy.
Right. And it's also, Dylan Cook's been around for a minute around the team, but I wonder how much for the offensive lineman this is the ethos of the ethos of the catching up to the speeding train. How much is the train speeding up for Dylan Cook? having him for a backup in case Broderick Jones, collects 3 penalties again on 3 straight plays or whatever it was in Denver, great. But I'm not sure if Dylan Cook can show you enough in practice where you're like, okay, he's definitely improvement over Broderick.
I laugh at that.
Yeah, I think we still, we've seen that Broderick. I mean, last year at least, Broderick Jones was capable, especially in the run game.
Yes.
And so I think that we shouldn't expect. Is he still hurt? Even I don't know.
I kind of wonder how much of that is him still playing with a thing. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, hopefully the guy's hurt, and that explains some of what we've seen.
Okay, let's talk defense at Tomlin _sense. Obviously not Tomlin. Obviously the defensive player of the year, TJ Watt. Okay. TJ is 7th in sacks in the NFL with 6.5.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit under pace of the last couple seasons for
Certainly.
him. Now he is first in the NFL with 4 forced fumbles. So how can you say he's a definite defensive player of the year? Is he in the conversation?
I think he's a definite finalist. I haven't looked at what other players are doing. I mean, I assume, what was it? How many years ago was Stephen Gilmore? Wasn't he defensive player of the year because he had like 10 interceptions?
Yeah.
I mean, every now and then you're going to have a season where a dude just goes off on some bizarre stat and like you can't not give it to that guy. I don't know if such a thing is happening. Ironically, I think his biggest competition from what we've heard, we just saw that Dexter Lawrence for the Giants, who's just has an incredible amount of sacks and is just an amazing player, but also they're not giving defensive player of the year to a 2-6 team that's going to finish well out of the race in the NFC East. So, I mean, I would have to see what players are doing things for contenders. I assume there's some players doing somewhere, but TJ also, I think at this point, maybe to a lesser extent than Aaron Donald, but benefits from a name recognition. People have now heard years that TJ should be Defensive Player of the Year, and I think kind of associate their names with that. So I'd be very surprised if TJ wasn't at least a finalist this year, even if somebody has a video game stat level season that I just don't know of.
Holding those balls in big moments.
And it's the key moments that seems to be, he's there. He's the clutch factor in the fourth. So, can he be, I mean, if he's 7th in sacks, but his like almost single-handedly.
What was Miles in sacks last year? I mean, he didn't have one for like the last 5 or 6 games, right? I mean, he couldn't have been too far towards the top.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
We're not looking it up.
I'm having problems with the computer today, so. How about at Blitzburg still won Big Ben's burner? Well, damn, and it's 0 points allowed in third quarters. The Steelers have yet to allow a point in the third quarter, and they even have 3 second half shutouts altogether.
Yeah. For people that have told you for years that second half adjustments aren't real, we might have to adjust that.
Yeah, this Terrell Austin doesn't make adjustments. Well,
they definitely adjust something. I mean, it's if you don't get the Steelers in the first, then you're unlikely to get them the rest of the way. I mean, even the Colts, that game they won, that was powered largely by 17-0 at the very beginning. And the Cowboys, well, that was, just back and forth, and best player on the field had the ball at the very end.
And Tomlin himself said, we don't wait for the halftime to start making adjustments.
Right.
We're doing it on the fly. So, okay. How about let's go to the secondary. At Alex Kazora. Since the merger, only 2 Steelers undrafted free agents have intercepted 3 passes in their rookie season. Beanie Bishop this year, Tony Dungy, 1977. Yeah, all right. 3. Now, keep in mind, 2 were tipped balls.
Oh, yes.
But the one against Rodgers, that was
as good a play as you're going to see, and also an undrafted rookie free agent at least has the instincts to be around the ball, to at least know where the play is going, and then to be there. Because I'm thinking specifically the one against the Giants, because if that guy does catch it, he's there to make the tackle, he's there to help, he's there to make sure that guy doesn't just run it right into the end zone should he get past the other player. But and even the one that was tipped against the Jets. I'm willing to defend by Beanie reaching his hand out like that, blocked, what was it, Wilson's vision just enough for him to be able to bobble it. So, but no, I've been very impressed with Beanie. Now, again, you will still hear that, okay, a lot of the times dudes were the reason they were open for the Giants throughout the rest of the game had something to do with Beanie, maybe not being in the best position, whatever, but Beanie is absolutely part of the solution moving forward in future seasons. I have seen more than enough to this can be the last season of Cam Sutton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are we about to have an abundance of riches? I don't know if Corey Trice is getting healthy.
I think I don't know if he'll be back the first game after the bye, but he should be back soon. Yeah, and then you can put Pierre back at special teams
and then so it's Porter, it's Jackson, it's Cam Sutton, it's Corey Trice, and then Beanie? Or do you think Beanie is more than just the fifth in the depth chart?
I don't know. I mean, does Beanie also get with like the safeties, right? Like Minka and KZ and Elliott. I thought that's kind of where you put Beanie. But they have said we're not just putting Beanie on the bench. He's done too much to already to deserve that. So, I mean, again, this like the earlier thing we said about Arthur Smith. This is a good problem to have.
Love it. How about, but there's still some people not always happy. At Pittsburgh Sports, Steelers takeaways, low-key starting to be one of my least favorite. This really is the story of the defense. Even within games, they're either playing really well or they're a bit of a mess. And the Steelers gave up 157 rushing yards to the Giants. That's the most in a single game.
A rookie fourth-round pick out of Purdue was the ran all over them. Oh, yeah. I mean, that very well could have won the Giants the game right there, how powerful their rushing attack was.
And who else ran well? I mean, obviously the Jets running back had some first half moments.
Yeah, I mean technically those were passes, but yeah, they were basically runs. I mean, there are times the defense's tackling will be bad. There will be times that the defense is not, this is not an all-time Steeler defense. There are drives that they look completely out of sorts or they don't tackle and all that. But that's the whole point of having an offense that can play complementary football. It shouldn't have to be on the defense to be perfect every game, every drive. I mean, there's a lot of things they have to fix, and we've heard all these stories about, how upset everyone on the defense is because of how many rushing yards they gave up, and Carl Dunbar let them know how disappointed he was in them. But I mean, I will still take 18 points, and I think part of that 18 points was also influenced by the offense playing that complementary football.
Not good enough.
Well,
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, you had the 2-game losing streak where Landon Roberts had the highest rushing defender rating. So it's like sometimes he's not the problem. But then when they're rushing all over us, is that the inside linebackers? I'm trying to see, what is it that Cam and Larry O are getting pushed off their guys?
Yeah,
or
I think it's just a lot of the guys getting pushed away. It's because I think part of what particularly upset people about the Giants is that this team, like some others, didn't have a particularly good rushing attack. Now, they probably hit on something with this running back. Was this his first start, his second start? I mean, this kid looks like he's going to have a nice career ahead of him. I don't know if he's going to be Saquon, but he seems like he's going to have a nice career ahead of him. But yeah, I mean, it's something definitely for them to fix and improve, because this effort will make the Ravens game very challenging.
Yeah, right. Who's gonna step up? It's like, man, I know Patrick Queen doesn't seem like he has the size to stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
I mean, who's it gonna? I don't know. Who's it gonna be?
They're gonna have to figure it out.
To be determined. Okay, we can't.
I'm not going to soothe you with hypotheticals.
Can't
scenarios.
talk hypotheticals yet.
Right.
We kind of already talked about this, but why not? At Mark Mizzou Steele. Mark, you can win games with a great or good quarterback, but you will never win a championship without a great secondary. The fact that Tomlin keeps the Steelers in contention every year without a great secondary speaks volumes to him as a coach. Have we not had I guess we haven't had a great secondary. Is this a great secondary?
Well, I mean, it's a better secondary. I'm trying to think of all these Super Bowl champions that uniformly had great secondaries. I mean, what was it, Limas or whatever, the guy, the big money guy from the Chiefs, he was very good. He'd start on any team, but I mean, the names of the other guys escape me. So I mean, that's the Chiefs. The Buccaneers certainly had a very good secondary when they won with Tom. The Rams, yeah, they had what was left of Jalen Ramsey, so that counts. I mean, I don't know if you need a great secondary. Maybe you need at least one genuinely great player at each level of the secondary, like one really good corner and one really good safety. Maybe that's it, because I just find it hard to believe that and I certainly don't have the numbers and names in front of me, that every Super Bowl team had like 2 lights out corners and 2 top shelf safeties, because that feels ridiculous.
I always just assumed a great pass rush will make your secondary look great.
I mean, that's how the Giants beat Brady in both of Eli's championships.
So I'm thinking, and of course you got Minka, and looks like Porter is the king of the North.
Is going to be the guy. Yeah.
So I guess it's just getting there. And
if your weak point of your secondary is the weakest part of your secondary, I can live with Dante Jackson and Elliott. KZ, I mean, it's going back to Beanie Bishop. I mean, if that's the weak point of the team, then okay. I don't know if you're going to be able to win focusing solely on that.
All right. Well, is that about it? Do we want to see the band want to get on the field? Nope. No bands. No. Just been a technically difficult day. No wonder Tomlin couldn't hear the refs on this. They finally found me. Although, I don't think this was a Renegade win.
No, I think they played Renegade, and that's when the Giants marched down the field and scored. It's those big chunk plays. It seems like we're holding them to third downs, but when they bust off, the big 20-plus yarder, that really seems to be the weakness on the defense. Yes, I think that's a good way of looking at it.
But you can only have 12 or 11 guys on the field, I guess. We're just not... all right. I guess that's really all we've got going on. I think that's
great.
All. I mean, we still went 50-some minutes.
Oh, my word.
That's
for those
what we've been talking about.
Yeah, behind the scenes, Kyle and I always think, how can we make this shorter? And it never happens.
Well, it's a bye week. Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy. I'm going to settle into some Penn State, Ohio State.
There you go.
That's my football for the week. Have a happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween.
Don't TP the neighborhood unless they're Ravens fans or Tomlin haters.
There you go. And make sure you're right about that before you do so.
Yeah. Or racking. Did you have racking? We would used to take the corn off corn cobs from the fields, and then you throw the corn at houses. We called it racking.
I'd never heard of that before, Kyle. So like you would get the corn the kernels?
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
You throw it at houses. Let's go racking. You throw it at houses.
Never heard of that.
That's where we came up with the great joke. Iraq and Iran.
Oh.
Wow. All right. Thanks for tuning in to last week's episode. That was big numbers for us.
You.
Keep the conversation going. Subscribe on YouTube, or really give us your iTunes reviews. That helps in that algorithm greatly. Follow us on social media. I am Kyle Kreis. Greg, how about yourself?
Unfortunately, I'm on Instagram at Greg Benevent. B as in boy, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
For those in the... check us out on what's the chat called? What's the chat site?
Your Slack.
Slack. Sign up for the Slack. I don't know. It seems like we have a passionate crowd there, but it needs to be. We need bigger numbers.
Okay.
So what Yinz talking about Slack? We can talk about everything that's going on throughout the week that doesn't necessarily make the show, like Cam Hayward's questionable walk-up appearances, outfit for the game. I thought that was a bad branding choice there, Cam. I'm sure he got a good check out of it, but the guy with 203 career games maybe doesn't need a check from Liquid Metal water.
I hadn't heard that. Wow.
All right. Well, you got to get on the Slack.
I
and,
do. I need to
sign us up on the Slack. Sign us up. Whatever. If
you know what it means.
Slack it up. Slack it up on the What Yinz Talking About Slack. All right. And if you really want to, and you're in Southern California, you can see us this Saturday at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank. I wore I had my Steelers sweatshirt on, and someone booed me. They were a Cowboys fan, and I'm just thinking, didn't you just beat us like 2 weeks ago?
Right. Sometimes I wear my one with the 1961 logo on the left breast. Maybe I'll do that since it's the bye week.
And maybe next week I'll wear my WrestleMania t-shirt, which I bought off the internet.
There it is.
I've got full WrestleMania. All right. Until we haven't seen a jersey yet in the wild, have we? I'm waiting for the first Russ jersey.
I
So
am too.
we'll see how that goes. All right. Until next week, keep listening to your coach.
Be their best selves. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.